A warm welcome to the director of The Sky is Pink, Director Shonali Bose. Welcome to TIFF again.
Thank you, Karan. So excited to be here and to be talking with you.
Well, this time it's a little bit different. Your feature film is being presented as the only Asian film in a gala presentation. That's pretty cool.
That is so cool. I mean, I was so excited when I heard that because I have been in TIFF, as you know, before, for the first time in a gala. And this year, because there are a lot of Asian films and terrific films out of Asia, but to be the only Asian film is very special.
So before we get into the film that you're presenting this weekend, let's take it back a little bit. So tell us from your early days starting as an actor in theater, making your way behind the lens to a filmmaker.
So I was an actor my entire life, as a kid, as a teenager, through school and college. So in college, I did very serious theatre in Delhi. I did plays in proper theatres. Faisal Al-Qazi was one of the directors I worked with, NSD, National School of Drama. So did a lot of theatre work. Then when I came to America for graduate school, to Columbia University to do my PhD, that all ended because that was 1987. And at that time, there were just stereotypical roles for South Asians, just really stereotyping us in a way that I just found abhorrent. So I was like, God, I need to write the good stuff for South Asians because it ain't there, it ain't out there. So I didn't act anymore, once I came, and that was a long time ago. So after that, I guess I went behind the camera and decided that I'm going to create material for actors versus being an actor.
Your last film, Margarita with a Straw, that was at TIFF, has a direct connection to how you got the story for The Sky is Pink, which is pretty interesting. So please elaborate on that.
Yes, you're right. You're right. So 2015 January, Amir Khan released the trailer of Margarita with a Straw along with PK. So it went out hugely across 3,000 screens in India. And this 18-year-old girl, Aisha Chaudhry, watched the trailer 30 times. And she told her parents, I hope I live to see this film. And she said that because she had been told when she was 14 that she had about 5 years left to live. She had pulmonary fibrosis of the lungs. So now her parents actually, it ends up, know a ton of people who know me. But at that time, they're dealing with their dying daughter, and they didn't think about it. And she died 2 weeks later without seeing the film. The film released in theatres in India in April, across 250 screens. And they watched it first day, first show, they tell me. And they saw the film and they loved the film. And it was their daughter's dying wish. And they were keen to make a film about their daughter. So then Aditi actually discovered that the makeup designer of Margarita with a Straw, Virginia Holmes, knew Aisha really well. Like Aisha was doing some makeup classes with her. So then Virginia connected us by email. So I get an email from Virginia about 6 months later saying, there's this woman who wants to talk to you. She wants to get some advice from you about a film she's doing. So that was how it was set up. So I get on Skype with her and she's asking for advice. And then mid-Skype, she just blurts out. She's like, you know what? The real truth is I just want you. Would you consider it I just want one filmmaker in the world to tell the story, and that's you. And will you? So I was like, okay, let me hear it. And then, I went down to Delhi. I was living in LA at the time, heard everything, and felt very inspired and connected with it and said, yes, I'll do it.
One of the interesting things I've heard you mention about the film is that you really focused more so on the relationship of Aisha's parents as opposed to about herself. Why did you choose that approach for this film?
Yes. They themselves said, we want this film about Aisha. She's really inspirational and we want it to be about Aisha. And I just felt that a film where the central focus is on a heroic dying teenager had sort of been done, they're both in Hollywood, and then, that sort of had been done in Hollywood, certainly. And personally, as a filmmaker also, I felt that's an important part of the story, but not the central thrust. I do find Aisha inspiring. I love her as a person. Everything I read about her, I think she's terrific. So I got the idea to make her the storyteller. And I actually found the parent story to be deeply inspiring too, which would remain the untold story. Because I felt, Aisha herself had given several talks, a TED talk, etc. Aisha's story would be more known and out there. And even went with my film. But the parent story, their love story, as well as how they were as parents, blew me away, And then therefore, that's what I wanted to focus on.
There's so many different relationships in this film. The husband-wife, the mother-daughter, father-daughter, brother-sister. Is there any one particular relationship that you connected with on a higher level?
I would have to say mother-son, because I myself lost my son Ishan when he was 16, and in fact I was very ready to deal with the subject matter of death and the loss of a child at the time that they approached me. That's one of the reasons also I wanted to do the film, because I was very comfortable to talk about death, and I'm very at peace with my son's death, and I have an incredible connection with him post-death, as intense as it was when he was alive, you know. And that's just been this beautiful, amazing relationship. And so mother-son obviously trumps everything else, even though the others were very special relationships too. And just to tell you, actually, I see this as a trilogy. So if you've seen my previous work, Amu was a strong mother-daughter relationship, very close. Margarita with the Straw was a strong mother-daughter relationship. And this is a strong mother-daughter relationship. So that I feel, in terms of the mother-daughter being the central thrust relationship that I'm exploring. It also goes back to my own mother, who I lost when I was 21, extremely close to. And then, so I think The Sky is Pink sort of captures both those things, me and my closeness to my mother, as well as me and my closeness to my son. But the title, The Sky is Pink, comes out of the mother-son relationship, because my ears were so tuned to anything about him, because his name is the same as my dead son's name, Ishan. So that was like goosebumpy. I was like, this film is just calling for me to write it. Like, that's just a bizarre coincidence.
You mentioned the name of the film. When you read The Sky is Pink, you think warm, fuzzy, hope, all that stuff. And then you see the trailer. Wonderful romantic comedy moments, and then such really intense scenes. So how did the name come about?
So the name is very connected with this conversation that the mother had with her 4-year-old son. So she was with her baby, nursing the baby in London, trying to, save the child. She's away from her 4-year-old and who she's really close to. And they were on the phone. She was on a public booth, and everything in the film is absolutely true, by the way. So you're going to see this exact scene I'm describing. So she's in London. It was 1990s, and she's on the phone, and he starts stammering. And he never used to stammer, and he's stammering and crying and just stammering. And she's like, what's happened? And he's like, Mama, the sky is pink, isn't it? But the teacher said it's blue, and he punished me. And the teacher put me in the corner. And all my friends, mujhe Buddhu bulaya, and said that sky is blue, Buddhu hai, tu Buddhu hai. And he was just stammering. And she was so traumatized that her 4-year-old was stammering, who was normal and fine, whereas her baby, the daughter, was sick. So when she's telling me the story, she just said it as part of a lot of things. It wasn't her focus. She's telling me the story about Aisha. But for me, like, I just honed into that, and I found it so beautiful, because she went to pieces howling. Like, she was just devastated that he was stammering. He's just a kid and he'd get over it. But for her, it was such a big trauma that her son was stammering. And her reply, and even I take it further, like, what color is your sky? And your sky has to be the color you want it to be. Like, we're all put into boxes as society, and we have all this peer pressure, and you're told, like, this is who you should marry, and this is the career you should have, and you need to paint your sky whatever color you want, And my sky is iridescent with just the spirits of my son, with everything that I do in life is according to my own terms, and other people's sky can be any color. So everyone should think about this from my film, that what color is your sky? What color would you like to paint your life?
That's the hashtag for this interview, for sure. It's very strong and admirable of you to talk about your late son. One cool thing that I found on your social media is that he's been a part of this journey, to the point where even the film is premiering on a very special day for you. Please elaborate on that.
Yes. So this whole thing started on his birthday. From the time of his death, on his death days and birthdays, and I call it Death Day. Like, I have learned to celebrate the death anniversary just like a birthday. So it's a death day for me. So firstly, just to start with, on the actual day of the funeral, I was looking at his picture, beautiful smiling picture. Somebody had already blown it up because the funeral was a day later. You know how people blow up the pictures of those who pass, and it was a framed picture in front of me, beautiful smiling face. And just till that minute, I was just a wreck, not being able to handle my son's death. So I'm looking at that picture, and I hear clear as a bell in my mind him saying, Mama, I didn't have to be on earth anymore. And I felt it in my body. I felt a light and energy through my whole body, and I accepted his death instantly. Like, him telling me he didn't need to be there anymore, I immediately accepted the death. And the biggest thing about dealing with loss, which everybody will face, because we all die and we all lose somebody we love. So it's something I hope you haven't faced yet, but you might face. I'm speaking to the camera now to directly tell you as an audience that everybody will face this, losing somebody. And him saying that meant to me that we're on this earth for a journey. It doesn't have to be 100 years, because till our grandparents are 100 or our parents, like that's when you feel like, chalo, pura zindagi to jee liya, it's okay, now they can go. And somebody going at 16, that to your kid is unbearable. It's like considered the worst thing. But I realized that, oh, it's just that that's the life that he needed to live as his soul. Like it's his soul that decided that he just needs this many lessons to learn in life and no more. And that was a beautiful lesson for me to understand and learn that. And now I just look at it that it's your journey. So even when tough things happen to you, it's tough things because your soul needs to learn those lessons. And Ishan learned his lessons triple fast because he's an advanced soul. And I'm not an advanced soul, and I need to be on earth much longer than him. So that happened at the funeral. And at the same funeral, like a really magical thing happened. So somebody I went to film school with came, and she said that she was crying. And then her 3-year-old son said, "Don't cry, Mama. He's a firefly right by her face." And they bought me this little firefly. Wow. He died 2010. I've worn it since then. I never take it off. And so he said, "She's a firefly right by her face." At the same funeral, the head of the Indian Film Festival, Christina Maruda, she came with this big frame painting. So I said, "What is this, Christina?" And she said, Ishan was in our art competition. I said, "Yeah, but he was a little kid. He was 7 years old. It was like 8-9 years ago." She's like, "Yeah, and we kept it." I said, "But he didn't even come third." She said, "Yeah, but we kept it." So I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." So I go home and I open this. Now, the Indian Film Festival came up with a title that all the children had to paint. The Story of a Firefly. Like, that was the name. And so there was Ishan's paintings of a firefly. And I have that framed in my room, and I just look at it because, the little child said he's a firefly, and then I had that. And sometimes small children, they are able to connect with spirits. And 4 years later, it was on my 49th birthday. I had just landed in India. I had jet lag and had gone to Lonavala, to a tree house somewhere with a friend. And I was just in the middle of nature. I looked up at the sky and said, "Ishan, please give me a sign that you're with me today." So on my birthday, his birthday, and his death day, he always gives me a gift somehow or the other. So I said that. And that night I went to sleep and I opened my eyes and there was a firefly right above my face the whole night. Because I had jet lag, I kept waking up and it didn't move. So with this film, it's his birthday, January 20th. So we're in 2019 now, so 2018, January 20th. I wake up in LA and I get this text from my producer, Sid Roy Kapoor, saying, "PC is on, she loved the script, she needs you to fly to New York to meet her." So right then I knew that he was blessing the film because this was his gift to me on his birthday. The world premiere of this film is happening on his death day. So September 13th is his death day, and the world premiere is happening on that day. What are the odds? Because TIFF goes from September 5th to the 14th. So it could have been any of those days, but this is the day.
And just to be clear, this wasn't a requested date, this just happened.
Cameron wrote to me saying he just loved the film, and the world premiere would be a gala and it would be on September 13th. I was like, oh my God, that is not a coincidence.
Well, it's definitely, you have someone above help looking out for you. Talk to me about the star cast of the film. Okay, having a wonderful story, and then you have Priyanka Chopra, Farhan Akhtar, on and on, Zaira Wasim. How was it directing that kind of talent?
So this is my dream cast. So these are the actors that I wanted, like number one choice actors for these roles. So that was firstly terrific that I could get exactly who I wanted for the roles. And then I just felt terrified and intimidated with Priyanka and Farhan that, are they going to, I'm an intense director. I've directed Konkona and Kalki, who are wonderful actors to direct, but who completely don't need me to tell them that they need to be directed. Like, they come from theatre, they've worked with those kinds of directors, Konkona with her own mother, Apurna, Kalki with Anurag and others. So it's primed for that. It's set up for that. It's all just thing. With them, I was just like, I don't know how it's going to be. And Sid really encouraged me and empowered me. And he was just like, you just be yourself. This is such a deep script. And for it to work, you have to be yourself as a director. So you need to call the shots and you need to just fully direct them and not hold back. Just don't be scared. Don't hold back. And so, but what I found is the very first meeting I had with Priyanka, the one in New York in January, and actually she had read the script and loved it. When later she told me it was all about that meeting. She said, if I hadn't hit it off with you in that meeting, because she hadn't watched my work, she said, I wouldn't have said yes. Like, it was at the end of that meeting that she formally said yes. We connected right away about death. So Priyanka had lost her father some years prior, was extremely close to him, and hadn't really been able to deal with his death. And I was in a beautiful place with death, and I talked about Ishan, and right away we connected, to immediately talk on such a deep subject, that too with, a big glamorous global star. That's so unusual. But because we did that, we formed a really close link, the two of us. And thereafter it was, she trusted me because she had to play the mother of somebody who's going to die. And she channeled my relationship with Ishan for her own performance. Both Ishan living, Ishan dead. She just sort of connected and got deep inside me because she said that as an actor she likes to do that. So that's what happened with her. I was in fact warned before my first workshop with her, like the managers had said, I know you're used to really intense workshops, like this can't be 8 to 10 hours, so can you just plan out the day that you do a couple hours, then do some costume stuff, let her look at her costumes, do that kind of stuff. That's what they told me, right? So I go into this saying, okay, and that's how I'm going to do. I was used to with Kalki working 8 hours a day. I go into her house in Juhu in Bombay, and we started off like at whatever 11:30 in the morning or something. At 10 at night, I staggered out. I myself was just feeling exhausted with my co-writer Nilesh Maniyar. Like the two of us staggered out, and I opened my phone, and there was just like thousands of messages. People were freaked out. My producer was like, "What's happening? What is happening? Where have you got lost?" Because we just kept going, and she is an intense professional actor. Then Farhan. The first time I met him. So Farhan, luckily for me, had seen Margarita with a Straw. He loved Margarita with a Straw. So that was a good thing. But I was actually even more nervous with him because he's a director who I love. Like, I love Farhan's work as a director. So I was like, damn, how am I going to direct a director who's also directed my lead talent? Like, he's directed Priyanka, right, in Dawn. So I was like, oh my God. So I was so nervous. He read the script. He loved the script. And then Sid and I go to hear about the script. And he just looked at me with just this vulnerability in his eyes, and he was almost shaking with emotion, and he said, I don't know if I can do this. Like, it is such a deep, powerful script, and I'm just terrified to do it, and I just need to place myself in your hands. Like, I am just feeling really scared to do this role. Are you sure that I can do it? And he just looked me in the eyes and said, are you sure that I can do it? And I was like, oh my God, that was such a beautiful moment between director actor. And thereafter he just fully placed himself in my hands. It was the easiest thing, working with him. So it ended up being fantastic. And I feel I really grew and learned as a director, directing the two of them. Yeah.
Any sense of pressure or responsibility given the fact that you had met Aisha's parents in regards to the story and her life and portraying it on screen, especially since you decided to show the relationship of Farhan and Priyanka through many decades, which is extra pressure on top of it?
So the family were just beyond thrilled that Farhan Akhtar and Priyanka Chopra playing them. So that's just a slam dunk. They were just like, oh my God, they were so excited. It was so cute and adorable that they were so excited that these were the actors to play them. So there's no issue with the family. No, with them, we talked a lot about how we're doing the de-aging, aging, because they're going from 25 to 53. That's the thing. And it was interesting because I'm 54, and I would keep telling Priyanka that she, the parts that she's 45. I was just like, I'll show you my photographs when I was 45. Now I have many more lines. But when I was 45, I literally looked 35. So I was like, and many of my friends in school and college too. So I was like, and Aditi Chaudhary herself, I was like, that's the portrayal. Like, we're not going to, people have this wrong notion because they feel, oh, you're 50, you're over the hill and you've got to be grey and think. I'm not masking, by the way. I haven't dyed my hair. I put a blue streak when I turned 50, but I think I have one white hair. It turned white in making the skies pink because we had just this crazy schedule. I got one white hair from making this film. But I was like, so because she, being 36, she had this sense that 50, 52, when she's playing the 52-year-old, she must have a lot of wrinkles and I was like, no, that's not how Aditi and I am, and that's not how it's going to be. So that was an interesting conversation about age, how to handle Priyanka for age. So we decided we'll do it with the wigs. And there'll be slight aging makeup, but we realized we don't want like huge aging makeup and that was a big conversation with her because I think she felt she needs to be aged more. And it's funny because now and then we said, okay, we'll do it in what's called VFX. Like if you're not happy with my vision, I said, trust me, if you're feeling bad about it, I will age you more. So when she saw the finished film, though, she's thrilled. She loves the subtle way that it's done. So that she loves. And with Farhan, we've de-aged him for some of his younger stuff. So he's so excited because he's like, for his stuff when he's in his 20s, like we've, done de-aging through VFX.
Very cool. Tell me, the heart and soul of the film. Is there any particular character that you'd say is the strength of the film? Is it the script? Is it the story? What would you say is the heart and soul?
No, in a certain sense, Aisha Chaudhary is got to be the heart and soul. She is the heart and soul. Like, because I made her spirit Aisha. I don't, firstly, when I've been talking about death and Ishan, I also want to say, like, it's not that I'm talking ghost story or believe in like ghosts or any such thing or that kind of. It's really my emotional connection with my son that I talk to him and experience him and feel him. And, these gifts could just actually not be real gifts, but I make them be real gifts so that it makes me feel good that he's actually giving them. Somebody else could rationally argue that it's on his death day, it's a coincidence, and I'm fine with that. I just want to say I'm very rationalist in that sense. So I called her spirit Aisha, and it's not a ghost story. It's not a spirit. Like, I can't stand that kind of stuff. But she is the heart and soul, the spirit, because she's telling the story in a very funny way about her parents. Like, she makes fun of her parents all the time. Because I, read stuff that she'd written and I was like, oh yeah, this kid is down. Like, I exactly get her. So she is making fun of her parents, but also about death. And that's also from her own writing that I gauged. And so because she is the voiceover, she narrates the entire story. So in a certain sense, and her voice is really like my voice and hers merged together. It's interesting thing happened. I told Aditi Nirain that I always celebrate my son's death days. Like, I always do something amazing and think. This was just like 2 weeks before their own daughter's death day approaching. So they loved that idea and thought. So for her Barsi, the father's a rock singer. He's fantastic. So for her Barsi, they decided to do a rock concert in a big club in Delhi and called all their family and friends. And I was in the house. I was in her room. I was just finished talking to the mother, hearing the interview about Aisha. And the mother said, I've not been able to give away any of her clothes. Like she's still dealing with the grief, the mom and the father. I mean, they're still completely not in the place that I am with my son's death. And I know how it is with the clothes. It's really hard. Like, I clung on to Ishan's T-shirts even. I still wear his T-shirts. It's difficult to give away your child's clothes. And she said, I'd like to give you one. And Aisha's small and skinny, but I'm sort of small and skinny. So her coat fit me, and I literally felt, I put the coat on, and I literally felt I'm in Aisha's skin. And I lay on her bed, and I just breathed her in, and I just felt her presence, and I felt I am inside her skin. And I'm going to commit to making this movie in a way that she would be proud and want her story to be told. So I do feel she's the heart and soul.
Wonderfully said. Tell me something. You've had films before, Priyanka Chopra, Farhan Akhtar, these are big stars. But when they're talking about this particular film, there's a sense of excitement with everyone in regards to the premiere and how it's going to be and the story. Tell me why that extra buzz is here for this particular film.
Thank you. I didn't know that. with Priyanka, I just did a whole press day on the 7th. And yes, I mean, it's very exciting because there's a 3-year gap from her doing any Hindi film. But as she explained in the interviews, it's not because she was taking a hiatus from Bollywood. It's just that Quantico took, 10 months of her time in the whole year, like intense shooting all day with Quantico. So it's not that she chose to leave Bollywood at all, like, because that was just like, oh, this is your comeback. Like, it's not in that sense. But it is a fact that it's been a 3-year gap since she's done a Hindi film. So for her, it's huge, like this. And this is the first film she's producing that she's acted in. This is her first film, as she said, that'll be Priyanka Chopra Jonas. She got married during my film. She fell in love and got married under my eyes. Like, I watched it from her first starting dating Nick to the marriage till 5 days before her wedding. She was shooting with me. So it's so special for her, and connected with her. And I think for Farhan, this role, because the roles for all the actors, they're deep, meaty, like juicy roles, And I think it's challenging roles, as I said. Farhan's a father himself. So I feel it's a very special story for him too. And I think they're roles, and I think Farhan told me he refused to watch any cut. All the other 3 actors have. He's just going to watch it at the world premiere. He's like, I can't bear watching my own self. and he just feels nervous, and he's like feeling nervous to watch it, but he knows what he did. He knows what the story is. He can't not know that he's just slam dunk brilliant in it, and I think they're all proud of that. Like, they took a real story and they lifted it to another place with their performances. Absolutely.
After the premiere on Friday night, we will all be there. What do you want the audience to take out after the credits roll through at the end?
I hope that people are able to feel a little bit more positive and light about death the way I am. Like, just even if they understand that death days can be like birthdays. Like, when somebody's journey on life ends, it should be celebrated, because it's like when you run a marathon, you cheer and celebrate it when it ends. So when a person's journey ends, even if it ends earlier than you would have wanted because you're still in the marathon running, but they ended their race fast, and that should be cheered and that should be celebrated. And so, like, the character wears beautiful bright clothes at her daughter's funeral, because I wore vibrant red at my son's funeral, and so I made Priyanka wear that at her daughter's funeral. And if people just go with that, that would be great.
Any funny memory you have from the shooting, or any particular moment that just stands in mind throughout the shoot of the film?
Yeah, there are so many hilarious ones, but I'll tell you a couple. Like, one is a really sweet one, which is, as I was saying, we were shooting till 5 days before her wedding. So, and then we shot after the honeymoon as well. It's not that it ended there, but at that point, so we had called Nick and said, please come to set, because we're going to be doing this cake and champagne. And she's doing a really intense scene, and I hear a sniff near me, and I'm like, the AD is crying? Like, people are hard-boiled on a film set. I was like, the AD is crying? She's really good, but he really is crying. I turn around, and Nick is standing next to me, and he's crying because she's doing this intense role, and then I just hugged him. That was such a sweet memory. And then, like, another thing just connected with her wedding, just because I think it's so wild. We were shooting all day. Then she got onto a plane, went to Paris, because Ralph Lauren couldn't come to India because there's the atelier for the gown. So he had his atelier in Paris. Wow. She just flew there for 6 hours to try on the Ralph Lauren gown for her fitting, because she had this amazing gown, as you all have seen, with the long train, right? And then got on a plane, came back straight to set. Like, that's just incredible. And another thing that was really amazing was that we were in the Andaman Islands shooting. And actually, I think we're the first big film that has ever shot, an Indian film that's shot in the Andamans. It's such a beautiful part of India. Nobody's seen that. It's gorgeous. But what had happened is the waves were really high. And we had gone, the tide changes at different times. So when we had gone to do the testing, like at exactly the same time, that, okay, noon, the actors are going to come out, blah, blah. So we go, and it was calm ocean. Now, the next day we're shooting, the waves were just super high. This is not funny, I suppose it's a scary story. The whole boat, luckily the actors weren't in yet, just me and the crew, the whole boat just went up like this. It just went up 180 degrees. We jumped into the ocean, and then the boat tilted completely. And then for the next 4 hours, like, all the men on the crew with ropes, like, just to turn that boat back. Was just crazy. And then there was another boat deep out there that had my cameraman and all that. And there was no boat. The actors were going to be taken with me to that. So I just tell my producer, Sid, I was like, okay, I'm just going to swim out to that. Before he could react, I just jumped in the ocean and I swam out. It was like a mile out. I was just swimming. And Sid is just like panicking. And Priyanka Farah, they were like, oh my God, she may drown, because I was a tiny blob and they're just panicking on the beach that they can't reach me. But then I got on the boat and I waved.
Memorable stories for sure. Well, on behalf of Urban Nation, we are very excited to see the premiere on Friday night in Toronto with you. We look forward to seeing you on the red carpet, and we're sure this is going to be a box office success.
Inshallah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karan. That was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.